Hi, welcome to the Power of Now. I'm Coach Mitchell.
And I'm Coach Darren.
Together we are MD
Coaching
and Consulting. Welcome to Tuesday night's discussion. Listen, tonight we're going to be talking about self-abandonment. Have you walked away from yourself? And if so, why?
Can I just interject?
Yes.
That, those who have been following us might have noticed that this was last week's topic. And you might wonder why we're repeating it. Well, as you may have looked at my post, it was because our audio last week was really bad.
Very bad.
Yes.
Very bad.
And we couldn't hear it, but the recording picked it up. So, Mitchell, do we have anybody out there who can validate that our audio is okay?
Not yet, but if you are on any of the platforms, YouTube, Facebook, let us know whether or not we're coming through loud and clear. There is no echo. Just give us a thumbs up if the audio is okay.
All right.
We'll ask that question again, Coach, because right now there's
nobody in the
right, no one to validate.
Okay. I just want to just also share this. For those who attend our sessions, just want to let you know we are not practicing psychotherapy or any form of counseling. We are not trying to repair you. We are simply helping you build a foundation for self-mastery by bringing awareness to the possibilities before you. So we don't want to imply that we're here to fix you, because that would imply that there's something wrong with you. We're just here to share the awareness of all the possibilities before all of us.
Exactly. Just bringing awareness to life.
Yes.
To life. And as Coach Darren is saying, that we're not trying. Okay, we have, hey, Ray, thanks. Ray is saying that it's not showing up on Facebook group. We noticed last week, Ray, that it was 2 minutes into the broadcast that it appeared on the group page. So there's a delay from StreamYard to Facebook. Okay. All right. So it's up. It's up now. Thank you, Ray. Can you let us know about audio? Are we coming through okay? Loud and clear, no echo? Coach Darren, his audio is okay. So just give us a thumbs up. Let us know.
And let me just check something.
Yes.
You guys keep hearing us mention somebody by the name of Ray, right? I don't want you to think that's an imaginary friend. Ray is a gentleman who kind of keeps us in check. And by the way, he is an awesome artist, graphic artist. So if you ever need anything in that space, reach out to us and you'll get to meet Ray. Right? He is a real person.
Okay, great. Good audio. I'm going to put that there just so. All right. All right. So as Coach Darren was saying, we are not psychotherapists, psychoanalysts, sociologists, or any of the above, but we are individuals that are passionate about caring and the betterment of our fellow human beings. And we want you to prosper, not just in finances and health, but just overall, your mental wellness is very important to us. We pay special attention to our emotions and how we feel on any given day, and making sure that we show up for not just ourselves, but others in our lives and those that we may be interacting with. And we just want to bring that awareness to the group.
Yes. Because here's something that we all need to come to the understanding that everything in this universe is connected, all the way down to our inner self. Our mind and body and spirit are connected. So if you want to prosper, you got to focus on prospering in all areas. You know, you don't want to be, rich and then really unhealthy. You don't want to be unhealthy and be poor. Mhm. You don't want to feel disconnected. So you really want to work on all of you every chance you get. And that kind of leads into our topic, self-abandonment.
Mhm.
So I'm confident in saying that the concept of self-abandonment has gotten little attention in the personal development discussion. We talk about many things, about all the things that we should be doing, such as goal setting, vision, visualization, all of those things, and even manifestation. But little gets talked about in terms of self-abandonment.
Mhm.
Uh, it probably comes under different names in, again, psychotherapy or um, but in this field, yeah, we kind of gloss over it,
Yep.
and yet it can have devastating effects on our mental, physical, and emotional well-being. So tonight, that's what we want to talk about. Are you abandoning yourself? Have you?
Right. And coach, when you say glossing over it in our lives, give us some examples of what you're referring to.
Okay, I'll give I think the biggest area, two biggest areas where we abandon ourselves. One, our health, and two, our passions and dreams and aspirations.
Mhm.
That we, a lot of people will just, yeah, I wanted to be this, or I always had to try to be this, but yeah, I gave up. And we know that life happens, and it will throw us off course. And sometimes we get caught in that riptide, in that undercurrent that takes us away from what we really thought we were here to do and to be.
And do you think that's because people don't really sit and ask themselves that critical question or questions as to what is my purpose and why am I here?
Um, yes, I think it has a lot to do with that. I also think that we, along our track, you know, we get caught up, and as I said, we get caught up in that rip current that we get redefined, or society, or family, or whoever. They begin to define who we are, and we believe it. We then, wear that as to who we are. In a class example, years ago, I remember looking up the stats in terms of what people, what people majored in college, and what was the percentage of people who ended up working in the field, in
Mm-hmm.
the industry that they went to college for. And I was really astonished by the number of people who really don't end up working in the field. I myself was, one.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason for that, really comes down to you come out of college, you're looking for something in your field because you went to school for it, so you have a
Right.
certain passion for it.
Mm-hmm.
And when that doesn't happen, you then start doing what? You drop and you start looking for a job.
Right. Exactly.
Now,
Looking for wherever will accept you.
yes. And then that starts, if you live a life that wasn't what you really had planned. And the statistics say, like after 10 years it decreases, after 15, it decreases. And I apologize, I really wish I could remember what the stats were, but they were really shocking. So having said that, it basically says, when that happens, people again, they get taken away from what their passions are, and they begin to live a life uh, based off of what that new profession is. Now, for some people, it may work out well. You may end up in a profession that you didn't even know existed, or you didn't know that you had an affinity for.
Mm-hmm.
And we also know that you come out of, again, whether it's high school, whether it's college, you end up looking for a job, and if you end up making what you may feel is decent money, you begin falling into that place. You almost kind of toss your dreams because you're looking at the current versus the possibility.
Exactly.
So what you know, want to think about is, are you really living in a space that fulfills you? Yeah, that gives you a sense of fulfillment. That's really it. Because if you're not getting a sense of fulfillment, then you've abandoned yourself. Because you're going through the motions every day, and we pretty much know, if you listen to most people, everyone hates their job. Uh, it's really sad that, if that's the case. And you may have valid reasons, but the end result is, are you unhappy in your day-to-day living?
Yeah, I would challenge that statement that everyone hates their job. I think there are components of what a lot of people are doing and that they may dislike, but also there may be some challenges with the people that they're working with that makes them feel that way. And it's not their job that they hate, it's the environment.
Okay?
It's the
Yes.
environment. Back to your point about, are people working in the field or the area that they actually majored in college because that's what they wanted to pursue as a career after, um, their collegiate years. It's 46% of people that went to college, students that say that they are not actively working in their field of study. So that's almost half the people that attend college. And I don't know what the number is on, college attendees, but 46% is a pretty high number to not to spend that kind of money and not go into the area in which you felt was your calling.
Yes.
Right? So again, self-abandonment, because you have to, based on society, based on your economic status, based on your living conditions, you have to get a job.
Yes.
First, right? And it's first come, first serve.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever is going to meet my need, my immediate need, not my purpose, not fulfill that purpose, but that immediate need I'm going to take.
Yes.
Right? So that is, as you said, part of the definition of self-abandonment.
And again, there's, we don't want to sound like, this is judgment. Because it happens. It happens to many of us.
All of us.
The question becomes, have you given up on what those desires were? And actually, it has nothing to do with college, because this is like even going back to, say, early childhood. Was there something that you just had a desire to do or to experience, and you just let that go? Every time, you do something that may challenge your health, you're abandoning yourself. And I would just go through if I can, a list of things to look at that, because we gave, talked about two large things, but we can be abandoning ourselves in our day-to-day activities. And like I said, what's really important is when you abandon yourself, it leads, it can lead to amplified feelings of emptiness, unworthiness, self-doubt, and or loneliness. It's a form of self-sabotage when we abandon ourselves, because sometimes we'll abandon ourselves to please someone else. So again, it's another, this is another session where it comes down to your self-awareness and your honesty. Are you being honest with yourself? Because, we end up making excuses, to rationalize not doing some of the things that are, let's just say, our soul wants us to do. So are you abandoning your needs? Are you doing anything that leads you away from becoming what I like to say your higher self? You know, now you have to have a desire to want to evolve in order to say, am I becoming my higher self?
Mm-hmm.
Or have I just accepted, this is who I am and this is my lot in life and that's it. Because in the previous episode, I said one of the things we love to say is, people need to accept me as who I am, which is a very stagnant mentality. You want to make sure that you're not saying that to yourself. I need to accept myself for who I am. Yeah, in the moment, but I'm also working on who I want to become.
Yeah, that's a part of that self-discovery.
Yes.
And constantly peeling back the layers of who you are at any given moment to get to where you want to be in your next. Yes. Right? So I think that is a very crucial point, that at times what happens is we become stagnant. Because one, we believe what others have said, and Deborah posted here, great point, that we abandon ourselves to please someone else, and it happens too often, and it does, because we really don't want to put up the fight. Yes. We don't want to put up the fight to fight for who we are, because sometimes we feel like it's just not worth it. You want to pick your battles, but I have to say that it's worth fighting for who you really aspire to be. Yes. And not allow anyone else to define who you are. Because once you do that, you have totally abandoned yourself. Yes. You've totally abandoned yourself.
Now, as we mentioned before, sometimes like I said, you give up the battle to win the war, but you're doing it intentionally for the long run. That makes perfect sense. What I believe, Coach Mitchell, what you're just saying is, we're not doing that. We're just giving up.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Right. So granted, you don't need to take on every battle to prove that you're not abandoning yourself, because sometimes it can be exhausting. So you want to be methodical and strategic about it.
Exactly. And you're absolutely right. Thanks for clarifying that. And I think an example of that is when we become parents and we put off what we thought we wanted to do and be, and use our kids as an excuse not to aspire for it.
Yes.
And it's always, I'll do that once little Jimmy graduates high school, or I'll do that once they graduate college and they become independent. Or now I can't do it because, I have to take care of my spouse's or my partner's needs, or I can't do it because little Jimmy had to come back home. And, we make excuses. Not everyone, but a lot of us make excuses. And forgive me, guys, for looking up, because I'm looking at Coach and I tend to forget that I need to look at the lens, because I'm talking to him, but I know I'm talking to you. So anyway, we tend to put it off. But I think in some instances, it's not that we're putting it off because of those things that get in the way. We're putting it off because we are fearful that we're going to fail at achieving whatever that dream that we once had was.
Yes. So, as I mentioned, I want to give you some things to look at to see if if you've been doing these things, and these are signs of, again, you're abandoning yourself. Like the first and foremost is, I think, on the top level is abandoning your dreams and aspirations. That's a given. Then coming down and looking at your health and well-being. Are you abandoning yourself in that area? But do you do this? And I really want to emphasize this, because if you are doing these things on a regular, then it's an issue. If you do it occasionally or strategically, then it is not. But another classic example is, do you ignore your boundaries to prevent hurting someone else's feelings or offending them? Mhm.
I'm guilty of that.
Now, I think we all are. As again, sometimes it is a good move. That, what, I'm not, I'm not going to offend someone, especially unnecessarily. But when you're aware of it and you're conscious of it, and you know why you're doing it, it's not necessarily self-abandonment. Hmm? Here's one. Do you ignore your gut feelings or intuition? That's your inner self saying, hey, you know what? You need to be mindful of X, Y, and Z. Uh, and I think we are guilty of doing that. That's that inner voice. Some will say that's the universe, God, the divine speaking from within. That soul, your soul calling out that, hey, you know what? You still want to be on the stage. You still want to act. You know what? And we ignore it.
You can even take that down to a micro level. Um, well, macro would be surface, right? To if your spirit is talking to you and you ignore the spirit, then there are consequences,
Mhm.
right? Either it's going to defer or delay your next move, it's going to set you back,
Mhm.
or it could harm you.
Yes.
And you can make your choice, but you can't choose the consequences based on that choice.
Only can choose how you
You
respond.
only can choose how you respond, but the consequences are the consequences.
Yes.
I broke my toe because I didn't listen to the spirit.
Mhm.
Stood up on a flimsy stool, and the spirit said before I did it, don't do it. I did it, and now I have 6 weeks in a boot. That's just on a macro level, right? But there are things that I'm making light of it, but it's serious when we do these things every day, and sometimes it's subconsciously that we make these decisions to deny ourselves or to abandon ourselves, and it causes sometimes irrevocable damage and delays.
Yeah.
So
I'll ask the question. All right. Pretty much anybody will tell you that don't eat fast food. Hmm? I think you speak to any doctor, any health expert, they will tell you, and they will give you legitimate reasons, don't eat fast food.
mhm.
We are well aware of certain things we should not do. We pretty much know you shouldn't smoke. Hmm? So there are things that are evident that can be agreed upon by pretty much everybody. Yet, if you still do it, that is another form of self-abandonment. Why would you do it? And I want you to get this visual right now, because this might resonate with you. Imagine a loved one being on a boat out in the water,
Mhm.
and you can't not get to them. The moment you throw your hands up and just say to yourself, I can't do anything, that's when you abandon that person. Now, there may be reasons why you can't go up, but just think about that feeling when you get that visual of having to just submit to letting something go, but yet you haven't looked at all the possibilities.
Mm.
Self-abandonment can be on that level where you've accepted something and something like, well, I really cannot do it. Mhm. And one of the future sessions we have on the schedule is something along with that, about being able to ask the right questions to yourself to allow you to get the answer. But sometimes we'll just, again, get stuck in what I call, Coach Mitchell, we get stuck in the physical when what we really need is help from the spiritual.
Mm.
So we give up. You know, always say you can always make a way, and trust me, I definitely understand that things don't always fall in place for you, but you don't give up on things that matter to you. I don't think our life was designed that way.
Right.
Is it difficult? Absolutely. But again, if there's, as I say, desires of your heart, and you walk away from them, then you have abandoned, you know, again, yourself. If you're doing things day to day that aren't in your best interest, I want everybody to go look in the refrigerator right now. You got something in there that has no business being in your refrigerator or your cabinet.
My what?
No.
I do drink red.
Yes,
It's better for you.
You do know that study's been proven to be false, by the way. But here's something else. Do you quit on yourself? Goals, you know what? Again, commitments, desires. We all know New Year's roll around, and everybody will set their goals. And then, what is it? A couple of weeks in,
Definitely
monthly,
by February.
yeah,
Second week of February.
you know, people have abandoned their goals.
Mm-hmm.
Now they set the goals because they had something inside of them that they wanted to become better, and they walked away from it. And in most cases, I think it's just choosing. I'm too tired. I don't want to go. Get walking.
It's the easy way out.
Yeah.
It's the easy way out. You can easily be dismissive of progress by replacing it with procrastination.
Oh, absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
So it feels good to procrastinate because you don't have to put forth any effort in the moment. But that's in the moment, because what follows procrastination is regret.
Yes.
It's regret because you look back and you fill it with I wish I would have, or I could have, or I should have,
Yes.
or I was, I'm gonna, and I will.
Yes.
So those are all forms of procrastination. You know, my son used to tell me he's gonna do it, or I will get to it. And I used to tell him, I wish you would bring your friends by so I can meet them, because I've never met. I'm gonna,
Yeah.
I should have, I would have, I could have, or I'll get to it, or I will. I've never met them. So if you can bring them by so that I can meet them and have a conversation, because they're all forms of procrastination. And procrastination shows up. I know who that person is. You know, I know who that person is. So if you could bring the others by so I could meet them, maybe I could talk to them and they could make some progress and get out of that procrastination phase, right? So, hi, Dr. Nicole. Thanks for joining.
I remember this goes back 20, 25 years ago. I can't remember who the speaker was, but the speaker was on a stage, and he held up. It was just this round, like a round piece of, it could be cardboard, I don't know what it was. It was round, And he asked everybody, does everybody know what this is? Nobody really knew. He says it's a toy. Come on, you all know what it is. It's a toy. Well, yeah, it's a round toy. How many of you guys tell yourself day in, day out, I'm going to get around to it? Well, guess what? Here it is. You know what? Now what are you going to do?
Right, exactly.
Again, that procrastination plays out in many ways. Now, granted, we know to become what we might deem to be great, good, to become our higher self. And you define that how you want. It takes effort. And we know we've been conditioned, I think this is a societal thing, to be mediocre.
Yep.
And we fall into that in so many areas of our life.
Well, I mean, now that you pull society into it, I got to pull the government into it. I mean, it says a lot when people don't want you to learn,
Mhm.
and people don't want you to be knowledgeable about a thing, whatever that thing is. You can plug and play here. It says a lot because the more you know, the more you can grow,
Mhm.
right? The less you know, the more ignorant you become,
Mhm.
because you can get more ignorant by the day,
Absolutely.
right? And I think that what, as society as at large, has proven over the last 3 years is that they allow a lot of people allow others to dictate how they should live their lives.
Mhm.
And in that dictatorship, it's do not learn, let me tell you, let me instruct you on what I think that you need to know, because that way I can remain in power and continue to do what I'm doing. If that is not the quintessential definition of self-abandonment, is allowing someone to lead you around by the nose
Mhm.
and you not smell the stench behind that, I don't know what is. So,
That is a really good example. And again, that connects to what we spoke about previously about, uh, living with our head in the sand and thinking, everything's okay. Yeah, let them dictate, what I should learn.
uh-huh.
But I just want to say this, we've also been conditioned again, and this goes back to our schooling as young children. And again, it's societal, it could be drilled all the way down to our individual areas. But remember how to be smart was condemned,
Mm-hmm.
and people would belittle themselves to fit in. Mhm. That's a conditioning.
Yep.
That's self-abandonment because very little is gained from being ignorant.
Exactly.
We know again, as you just said, it's we grow based on what we know and then our ability to apply that. And that's in any area of our life. But yet we get, if we're not careful, we will fall into that thing. Well, I don't want to show anybody. I'm going to put it this way: be mindful as an adult that you are not diminishing what you have to offer to fit in.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. I was just getting ready to say that. And I'm going to talk a little bit about African American women in the workplace because I know that space. How we diminish the value that we bring to the table for fear that we're going to be labeled as aggressive, um, know it alls, or just wanting to take over someone else's position or role, when it's more or less just having a seat at the table and wanting to better or further along the organization with the knowledge that you have,
Mhm.
right? So we downplay ourselves and we self-abandon ourselves. I mean, every day in the workplace, because we think that's going to get us to the next level, when in actuality, it's not. It's not. And, I learned that years ago, when I walked away from a very high 6-figure paying position because I needed to take my value back and not be put in a position and put myself in a position where I was abandoning who I was as a person. So I think that that's important to take away. And you're right, Dr. Nicole. I think we all do the same thing. We let the hang around stick around until we have to get to it and do it, right? So I think that, self-abandonment, it just plays out in so many different facets of our lives. And I think some of what we bring to the table, Coach, as awareness coaches, is that, we don't have to live in that space of self-rejection, self-denial, being less than, and we can champion ourselves for bringing value to a situation, space, or person's life.
Absolutely. And just continue with some of the things that you want to observe of your behavior, to see if you're abandoning yourself is, do you often say yes when you should say no? You know? We tend to do this for various reasons. And I always remember years ago, then I was in college and I was home one time, and my mother said to me, "Are you afraid to say no?" Because people were calling for my time. I was home and then asking me, I had relatives asking me, "Did I do X, Y, and Z for them?" And my mother asked me, and again, on a conscious level, I wasn't aware of it, but she noticed it, that I was constantly making myself available. And we do that for many reasons. And again, a lot of people do it and they almost become their own sacrificial plan. So, are there times where you're saying yes when you should simply say no? I also believe that a lot of parents do this, with their children, which I think is dangerous in more than one area. Now, I always believe, let your children know the word no, that life doesn't always just hand you just anything because you ask for it.
And that's a good point, because if you teach them early on if you allow them early on to respond with a no, I think the follow-up to that is to ask them in that moment, why did you say no? And that gives them the opportunity to express themselves.
Yeah, well, I'm just talking about something different. You telling your child no when they're asking for something. So you're saying the no, not them saying the no.
Right.
They need to hear that life will not give you any and everything upon you asking for it.
Yes.
And I just believe that them understanding that it does not work that way. We would like for it to work that way, but we know in reality it does not. That when they are disappointed as a child, as opposed to them going into young adult and facing someone telling them no.
Got you.
And then they
fall apart.
Yes.
Right. Well, I think, okay, I can even flip what, my statement. It can be that we explain instead of that response, that coined response that so many of us parents give our kids, because I said so. I think if we go a little bit deeper and explain why we said so, that would help develop their critical thinking, their analytical thinking, and their interpersonal skills when they do go out and become active members of society. It will help them to process a no versus reacting to a no.
Yes.
And we wouldn't see so many mass shootings or just unsolicited and unsolicited violence against one another. I think that's important. So I think if we explain why we say no and come out of our limiting beliefs that, oh, I'm the adult and whatever I say goes, it would develop a more socially conscious and responsible adult in our children. you know.
Absolutely.
And I,
Okay.
yeah, I was just going to say, I think, you know, also part of what you were talking about is that cognitive dissonance,
Yes.
where, you know, you're allowing your values to be assaulted and submerged because you don't want to displease a person.
Mhm.
You know, you want to be a people pleaser because you don't want to feel the discomfort in how that person may react when you respond with your boundaries.
Mhm.
So,
Now, and that's all part of an urge to be accepted.
mm-hmm,
Mhm. Uh, you know, the previous comment that Dr. Nicole, mentioned is, about prioritizing.
mm-hmm,
And again, we want to just kind of make clarify or make the distinction that one, if you're driven, you just want to do a whole bunch of things. Trust me, I understand and granted, some things just aren't going to make it to the top of the list. And having that self-awareness and being authentic, to her point, is we end up doing the easy things,
mm-hmm,
the stuff to make us look busy, right? Instead of doing the hard things. And then we use the cognitive dissonance to rationalize. Can I get to that because I'm so busy?
right,
But when we have that self-awareness and we're being authentic, we know in ourselves that while we're doing the things that we do,
right,
uh, you know, so again, it's okay to prioritize, and it's okay, to just recognize that, yeah, certain things you're not going to be able to get to because you do have things that are more important. And again, I want to make the distinction. That's not self-abandonment. That's
right,
it's just factual.
right.
Uh, and it's
You're
also,
working down your list at
yes, you're
that
working
point,
down your list.
right? But you're going to get to it.
Yes.
You're going to get to it.
And again, when you have that self-awareness and the intention, you will allow those things at the bottom to eventually work their way to the top and not get pushed back down to the bottom.
Right.
So that's not what we consider as self-abandonment.
Right. I think, you know, what factors into that is low self-esteem, individuals who are not confident in who they are.
Mhm.
Others, it's very easy for others to impose a representation of a character that they should be. That's the best way I can put it. And people fall into that pit of allowing other people to define who they are
Mhm.
when they have low self-esteem. And I think that's something that has to be worked on individually so that individuals are not led or defined by someone else's definition of who they think they should be.
Right. Uh, I just want to
You
get,
have to set those boundaries.
there's a quote, uh, and I'm sure somebody probably knows what this is, but it really talks about
Listen.
just that. But it was a quote by, uh, Audrey Lorde,
Audrey Lorde,
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 RDE, and she talks about defining ourselves.
Audrey.
Yeah, it's actually AUDRE,
Uh-huh.
LORDE is how she spells her name. There's a famous quote by her. Um, I first heard it in the movie The Best Man, and most people will probably remember that quote from that movie. Mhm. Uh, but again, with that, being said, we'll come back to that later, unless you can actually.
I'll see if I can find it.
Okay, and it says something about, defining yourself or letting others define you. But anyway, do you diminish yourself simply to make someone else feel better? Or do you discount your beliefs, your thoughts, your feelings, and your beliefs to either be accepted or to make others feel better? Now, I don't believe that we need to wear all of our thoughts, beliefs, and feelings on our sleeve, because that could then alienate folks. Some things you don't need to say, but you want to be mindful that you're not abandoning that part of you simply to please other people or to be accepted. And this last one is, have you allowed your passions to die? Have you just given up now? And then the bitterness sets in where you start to allow that abandonment to appear in other areas of your life. There's another quote. I think it's a Chinese quote from I can't remember the author, but basically it's how you do one thing is how you do everything. Meaning our habits tend to permeate all areas of our life. So that's another reason why you want to be mindful. Yes, that's it. The importance of defining, yourself for yourself. Otherwise, other people will define you for them.
Absolutely.
And then you will fall in line with that.
That's right. And how many, and again, I'm gonna have to go back to the African American woman because that's what I am. How we have been defined by others as angry Black women, which is the furthest thing from the truth. Even in a cordial interaction, we can be defined as angry and aggressive, which is, I think, a cop out and a cowardly move by someone who feels inferior and intimidated by the power and the value we bring to whatever situation or environment that we step into, and not taking that on and challenging that person with a question. Why do you make that statement? It's not even an assumption. You're just making a false statement. Why? And not owning it shows that you have a level, and shows that Black women have a level of self-worth and confidence and high self-esteem, and feel empowered enough to ask that question, why? And put it back in that other person's court to explain why you're making such a stereotypical comment in trying to define a group of people when that is really not your experience. So,
and with that particular scenario can be expanded in so many other areas. Because what Coach Mitchell just shared is, again, bringing it down to what African American women experience, but you can even expand that to what, say, women say they experience. The difference between when a man is aggressive, it's more or less rewarded, But when a woman is aggressive in office, she gets labeled with certain names. So whatever the case may be, whenever when someone's throwing those biases out, and you just take it, ask yourself again: are you abandoning yourself? When you know who you are, then that is right up front. That is this a time that I need to, as I say, nip it in the bud? So you want to just have that self-awareness that you just know. When your boundaries are, being crossed.
Right. And I think that is stepping a little bit outside of what I don't think so. I think that when that situation presents itself, you absolutely, definitely should speak up, or you are really abandoning not just yourself, but those that are coming behind you. because it is so important that I think in the workplace that we do speak up, because we're in a place now that people didn't speak up as to this is why there's so many biases and microaggressions that occur in the workplace because people didn't speak up. They sat at the table and they abandoned themselves as well as those that would come behind them.
Mhm.
Had they spoken up, people who violated someone else's character and their presence in the room would not be so comfortable doing so.
Well, you actually did, you know what, bring the self-abandonment to another level, but it's something that, again, how you can assess your abandonment, which again, your values. Your values will dictate what you believe is right or wrong.
Mm-hmm.
When you see a wrong, how do you handle it? Because you know if you see a wrong and you don't do anything, it's going to bother you.
Mm-hmm.
So that again is, you know, associated with the self-abandonment. How do you feel? You get that pit in your stomach because you've abandoned yourself. You've abandoned your values, and it's just interesting how, you know what, how everything works, because that is a sign that, you know what, you've just allowed yourself to float out into the middle of the ocean in that little canoe with the other part of you, your higher self, basically is on the shore. Well, let me reverse it. You're on the shore and your higher self is floating out. That you then didn't speak up. You've abandoned what you should believe what your values are.
Yep.
So, so again, let's talk about, because we're running low on time. What are the causes of self-abandonment? Well, first and foremost is your lack of self-awareness, as with everything. There's the self-awareness and then there is the awareness.
Mm-hmm.
Because you cannot change something if you're not aware of it. So everything comes down to having that self-awareness. It's also lack of accountability. We pretty much know we need to be accountable to ourselves. Lack of discipline, which is one of my favorite. Lack of discipline plays out in so many ways.
Mm-hmm. We have a question
Yes.
on the table. Deb asks that, do we think that because so much of self-abandonment seems to be negative, do we think that any part of that could be positive?
Whew.
Yeah, I think it could be. If you take habits, for example, because if we've abandoned ourselves and we've fallen into bad habits, that could be detrimental to our health, our economical status, our finances. I think abandoning that part of who we are, which is a weakness, and finding the strength to pull ourselves up out of that, we have abandoned that negative image of ourselves to achieve a higher level, to get rid of a habit that we've fallen into. I think we could do that.
Okay.
You're not suppressing the emotion, you're abandoning those negative emotions that cause you to self-medicate or to act in a negative way.
Okay.
And replacing it with something positive, something, a better habit.
Can I kind of throw this out there? Is the difference between, I think, is you're abandoning the habit, the lifestyle, not the self. That makes sense. No, you say, always don't criticize the child, criticize the behavior. You're abandoning the behavior.
Okay.
not the self. When we do it,
You're
unknowingly,
finding self. You're
you're
finding your positive true self by
true self,
abandoning
the
that behavior. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So you're walking away from something, not from yourself. You're walking toward.
Look, Deb, I tried. I'm okay with being corrected, but I tried.
It's like saying, I just want to kind of clarify because I really think about Deb's question.
Yeah.
Is there ever a positive thing? Yes, and I think the positivity is having awareness and walking away from the behavior, walking away from all that's not good for your higher self, who you're choosing to be.
Right.
That comes from that awareness, comes from the desire.
It's recognizing, I think, where you're coming up out of self-abandonment. It's recognizing that you have abandoned yourself by falling into those detrimental behaviors.
Yes.
And being able to say, it's not unlike, what they say, if you have a habit, you have to admit it.
Yes.
You have to own it
Mhm.
in order to start working towards breaking it.
Yes.
Right. So I think that breaking free from self-abandonment comes from recognizing that you've abandoned yourself by taking on behaviors and characteristics that are really not true to who you know you really are at heart.
Yes.
Fair enough?
That's, and I just again wanted to clarify that just so, I think people just have an understanding that it's okay, that we, can abandon parts of who we used to be. We're walking really towards something because even in the personal development, space, professional, they always say you should always, run towards something and not run from something. And to have that just awareness, that intention that those habits just don't serve me anymore. That's who I used to be and who I want to become. I need to abandon those behaviors in pursuit of my higher self. So if you want to say, was that self-abandoned? Was I self-abandoning who I used to be?
Yes.
I guess you could say that.
Yes. You have to die to self in order to live.
Yes. Which is another, subject that you have to be willing to allow parts of you to die. We have this, real issue with death that, just think about it. In order for the plant to grow, the seed has to die. It's just the way nature is designed.
Absolutely.
So your growth will always come from letting a part of who you were die.
Absolutely. It's like your hair. You have to cut off the dead ends in order for your hair to grow from the roots. Otherwise, the roots is spending energy trying to keep those dead ends alive.
And our cells in our body constantly are dying in every place. So just going back to, again, some other causes, it can come down to laziness. That may sound harsh, but sometimes we just opt to be lazy and not do the things that we know are necessary for us to become, a better version of ourselves. Sometimes it's a lack of self-worthiness. And a lot of this is really learned behavior from a child. Not the only place. Sometimes we learn it in adults, especially if we've been in tumultuous relationships. That will, could crush one's spirit. You could pick up these habits of self-abandonment. And there's also a guilt that may lead to self-abandonment. And I kind of associate this with the mother syndrome. Again, where you get into the habit of abandoning your needs on behalf of your children, and you never grab your needs back. You go through the rest of your life constantly acquiescing. or feeling guilty,
Mm-hmm.
you know, in those situations.
Right.
Mhm. So, how do you fix some of this stuff? Mhm. Well, you know what? I think the first thing, as you mentioned, Coach Mitchell, is, we talk about, you first got to become aware. You just got to realize something's not right. You know, something is not working. Mhm. And then you want to make a commitment to change.
Right.
And I said earlier, if you're not aware, like, you have to become aware of anything before you change it, because otherwise you don't see that's a problem.
Right. And I think sometimes living unauthentically, let me put it that way, not your true self, what you feel in your heart,
Mhm.
has so many negative consequences. In the long run, it leads to a breakdown, mental, physical, spiritually.
Mhm.
You can have a breakdown because it's not a good coping mechanism to suppress your true self
Right.
and live by someone else's rules and values,
Mhm.
because you're constantly in an emotional state of stress triggers
Yes. Mhm.
when you're denying who you are.
Mhm. Uh, and that's really the ultimate form of abandonment. Mhm. When like I said, that intuition, that gut, that voice inside of you is saying, constantly poking you, poking you, you know, you need to go do this, or you need to stop doing that. Mhm. Uh, and you get it. I go back to some of the bad habits, like for instance, anybody who smoked at any point in their life, there was a period probably where when you started, it was the cool and fashionable thing to do. You know what? You didn't think about it. You were just thinking about, I'm hanging out, I'm doing this, whether smoking or drinking, whatever it might be. And initially, you see we'll say the positive in that because you're enjoying doing these things. And then there comes a point where you begin to realize, I have no business doing this. You know, and the voice starts to speak to you. Mhm. I have no business going certain places. I have no business to be in this relation. Your voice, that inner voice, will always speak to you. You can ignore it, but it will continue to, you know, I won't say haunt you, because that I think gives a bad.
But it gnaws at you. You
Yeah.
you 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 feel it in your spirit
Mhm.
when when you're not doing something that your spirit feels is right.
Yes.
You're not settled. You're not settled.
Yes. Mhm.
You're constantly asking yourself, why am I doing this?
Mhm. Yes.
Or telling yourself, admonishing yourself to do something different.
Yes. Mhm.
That's when you know. That's when you know.
So,
So
yeah, go ahead.
no, I was just going to say, you have any other points? We are 4 minutes after the hour.
I would say this: the best place to start. It goes back to one of my previous sessions was, who am I? Is really getting to know you better. And that is where it starts when you begin to evaluate your values, what you see, how you want to spend your life, what kind of person do you want to be? Mhm. What do you want to do with the rest of your life?
And
Uh,
these are not 2 to 15 minute
you know,
discussions or questions with yourself. The responses are going to take some time.
mhm.
It's going to take some really deep introspection.
Yes.
And sometimes it's hard to face and confront who you are.
Yes. No. So, but that's really where you have to start.
Right.
And then, ask them, do you want to be experience a life of health and wellness in all areas of your life? Do you want to prosper in all areas of your life? and then kind of mapping an intentional plan or a plan of intention as to how you're going to move closer, you know, to be able to bring all those pieces of your life together
Mm-hmm.
and to bring them up. And when I say up, I'm saying because basically what it is, you're growing. And again, you always think about, if you look at nature, it all grows pretty much toward where? The sun. Toward what? The light. It's just the way it's set up. So
Mhm.
you want to grow more, when I say grow, kind of grow up, you want to do that. But it takes intention. And the older we get, the more intention it takes, because we gotta dump bad habits and behavior.
Yep.
So I would say start there, journal it, write it down. Mhm.
Yep, absolutely. I have a great journal for that. It's called Rule the Heart.
Mhm.
It definitely is
Mhm.
a tool that can help start the process. Start the process.
Yes. And in addition to Coach Mitchell's journal, keep showing up for yourself, because by not showing up is a form of abandonment. If you know there's something out there that you need to go attend, and you're able to attend, but you choose not to attend or participate or engage, you're abandoning yourself. That's why you need to be here.
Absolutely. And we love when you come on and you engage and you ask questions and you interact with us. That just lets us know whether it's, we reach 1 or 100, we're doing our part in creating awareness and helping someone who has maybe struggled or have a challenge in just knowing where to start.
Yes. So again, don't abandon yourself by not asking for help and not admitting that you're experiencing challenges, because we all do. We all do. So,
Absolutely. So on that note, Coach,
Mhm.
if you've wrapped up all of your points on
yes,
what to be aware
yes.
of and how we can start addressing some of those things, remember that suppressing your emotions and tolerating what others do, think, and say about you is not healthy. Again, we are not psychotherapists, psychologists, or sociologists. We are just two well-educated individuals learning the process as we go along and not abandoning our ability to learn and grow each and every day. And we want that very same for you. And we want you to know that, tomorrow night is our Wellness Wednesday with the Power of Now, where we come to you with tips from the kitchen to help with the physical, healthy aspect of, growing into better versions of who we are, right? So we want you to remember to maximize each and every moment to achieve the results that you desire for your life. Because if you don't start now, there will be no next. I'm Coach Mitchell.
And I'm Coach Darren.
Thank you so much for joining the Power of Now's Tuesday night session. And we look forward to seeing you back here tomorrow night at 8 p.m. for Wellness Wednesday. And we'll be back next Tuesday with another great, hopefully, session.
Correction. Next Tuesday.
Nope, next Tuesday, we're not. It's the 4th of July. Some of you may be celebrating Independence Day. So we will be back next Wednesday for Wellness Wednesday. And the following Tuesday, which is the 11th, we'll be back with another Power of Now Tuesday night, hopefully, awareness session. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.